Hey folks, so we have a fun little project today. I've been inspired by all of the tours that we did in Tucson, Arizona, and wanted to do a nice sedum Buddha bowl. So we got this beautiful Corten steel bowl. It's funny because this is not going to end up being silver. I don't know if you're familiar with like a Corten steel, but it starts to rust up. So this was a good example of what it starts to look like. And it will eventually just rust over time, and that actually protects the metal. And we're going with that Corten steel look for a lot of the planters around the area. So it kind of gives a little bit more of an industrial look. And I got this bowl. It only has this like one hole in the bottom for a drainage hole. So I want to make this much more better draining, just so that when it actually rains outside, because this will be outside, you can imagine like this could be on a front porch, or maybe if this is probably a little bit too big for a fire escape, but you could actually take a smaller container to do more of a fire escape, or you could probably do it in a very sunny place within your home as well, but then you'd want to have a little basin underneath it. And the thing about this this material that I'm actually using here, the Corten steel, is that it won't really rust if it's not in the elements. And, you know, again, that's the kind of like look that we're going for. It's going to start to darken up first, start to turn like maybe a little like dark gray, kind of blackish blue, and then you'll start to see the rust. So I really like that change over time. And I have some really interesting succulents that I'm going for here. And I got these really nice 4-inch ones from Rare Roots. Really wonderful place that I like to get some of my plants. I think they close down for the summer though, so they ship in like spring and then they ship in fall. And then I got some from Mountain Crest Gardens, which have some smaller succulents, and you could see that I have some sempervivums. I primarily got sempervivums and then this rossularia from them as well. And all of these are hardy succulents. So when we think of like succulents and cacti, we think of like growing in the deserts and maybe it doesn't get so cold. But in the reality, in some of these deserts, it does actually get cold, especially at night. So some of them can actually tolerate some level of frost. But these are succulents that actually are hardy to, in some cases, zone 4, zone 5. I'm in the zone 5, zone 6. So these will actually stay outside. You may want to actually protect your containers though, because once plants are in containers and they're not necessarily in the ground in a well-draining mix, and it's rainy and snowy, then they have a harder time kind of like recuperating. So I have a couple containers where I'm doing succulents, and in some cases, ones like this have survived extremely well, whereas maybe some of the more temperamental sempervivums didn't do so well. But my sempervivums that are in the ground in a well-draining area have done quite well. So I'm going to be using Espoma's cactus mix, but I'm also going to be mixing in a bunch of charcoal and some perlite as well. So I have perlite in a bag down here. So I have a bunch left. I had a little mouse hole that ate in there. I even have like some vermiculite, and then I have some of this bonsai mix right here. And I think I'll probably use the bonsai mix for a topper, because it comes in these small bags, and it's like, I really want to use a lot of this stuff, but it's kind of more of a precious material, so I'm probably going to use it a bit more of a topper. And I'm just going to put a lot of perlite in this so that it has this like well-draining mix. And then I have this beautiful piece of wood right here that was actually in my garden. You could get these at like the pet shops, really. And this is for oftentimes like reptiles, or, you know, building your terrariums or your aquariums. And it does extremely well in the rain or all the elements. And it could get like could go through high humidity. And it doesn't really break down very easily. But I just thought this shape was really beautiful. Sometimes if I go into the pet shops and I need to get something, I'll always look at kind of the things that you could use in terrariums, because some of the stuff I like to use and create little dioramas outside. So I thought, you know, something like this in here, and then just planting the plants around it, I think brings a little bit more interest. So without further ado, let's get going on this. Be a little bit more meditative. It's also quite handy that this is already a big mixing bowl. So I'm just going to use this place as an area to mix. And I already have rust on my hands, and the charcoal is going to get my hands nice and black. And then I'll just start putting some perlite in here too. It is dusty, so I suggest if you want, wear a mask. So I'm like, woo! And I love that I'm able to do this outside because I'm actually filming this after all those forest fires in Canada. So tragic. And we couldn't even go outside. It was like so polluted. Anybody who is in the city on the East Coast will actually know what I'm talking about. Folks watching this video down the line in the future will be like, I don't remember that. But yeah, I mean, it was really bad, and we had to wear like proper masks to be outside to even breathe over any extent of time. So it's really nice to be back outside again, and like the air quality is good. I love making these mixes. It's so good. It feels good on the hands. Even though it's not like soil from the earth, like this type of stuff still feels very therapeutic. Okay. And I don't want to fill up things too much because some of these have quite a bit of substrate on their roots. And the horticultural charcoal works obviously as a substrate that allows the soil to drain better, but also could help prevent bacterial buildup, which can attack bad bacterial buildup, which can attack some of the roots of your plants. So that's something that you might want to invest in, some horticultural charcoal, and make sure you get the horticultural charcoal and not just like regular charcoal. And oftentimes if you have a charcoal filter, obviously those are the things that actually take out some of the bacteria. All right, so these are my favorite. This is a sedum chocolate ball. This is actually starting to bloom a bit, and this becomes like a carpet of yellow, but you could see that the stems are this kind of rusty reddish, almost tinged with a little bit of pink, but it just kind of looks like a rust color. And this gets gorgeous. And I don't think enough of attention is placed on some of these succulents because they are great pollinator plants, at least generalist pollinator plants. So I wonder if I should like have this up a little bit more. I might do that so it's not like totally flat on the ground. So let me do that. I hope you get a chance to see some of the birds that are flying around. We have a couple Baltimore Orioles that are flying around and a hummingbird behind me in the hummingbird feeder. And it's just so wonderful. And we'll try to prop that up as we go and then make the soil line a bit more and keep on propping this up. The other thing I wanted to do is that, some of the sedum gets really red, and it gets redder as you have it in the sun. So I'm going to take this out, and this spreads nicely. This one is Sedum Fuldeglut, Blaze of Fulda Stone Crop. Blooms in July, so I'm actually filming this in June, so it's a little bit too early. You can see that these are the plants. They look really nice. They're well rooted, and that is compliments. Rare Roots is a really good. I really like their plants. I've always gotten great quality from them. And I may have a bit too much plants in here, which is totally fine. It's always a good problem to have. And then you could actually take off like sections like this. This section already came out. You can see this section came out. What I love about these is they root really easily. So in this little section right here, you could actually put, sempervivum or some of these that will basically take root and grow in like the cracks and crevices. And that's what they're really, they're really good for that. And if you get like soil on top, you could take one of those like things that blow dust off of your computer screen or things along those lines. But this is a Espoma. This one's called Fire Wonder. And when I got this, it wasn't blooming, but as soon as the sun hit it, it's like these little sunny rays just started to emerge. So I'm kind of going with that like red, yellow, rust, kind of a little bit more of the hot colors here. I even got some of the sempervivums. You can't tell, but again, some of those actually turn a little rusty red color in the sun. So they might come to you green, but over time they'll turn red. So yeah, these are, and you could, if these are too big of chunks, you could just rip them in half or in quarters or anything like that. You don't have to be too gentle with these kinds of plants, which is nice. If you have like a one stem plant and you broke it off and you're like, oh no, it was in flower. Some of our herbaceous perennials could be a bit more temperamental like this, but not these succulents. So I want to see if I could put some sempervivums in here. So this is a great example. This is a brand called Chick Charms. So this is apple teaser. And you can see they have these little pups or succulents kind of hanging off. And I'm just going to stick one right in here. And these there's like different groupings of sempervivums. So this is like the Arachnoideum group. I think these are a little less temperamental. This one is a bit softer. And so I have a whole video on like the different types of sempervivum groups. I think I did it on this channel. If not, I'll link to it. I'll have to go back. So this one is Silver Spitz, it's called, but you can already see it's getting that little red color, which is very pretty. And I'm going to plant this a little bit closer to this area of the wood so it doesn't get gobbled up by the sedum. Now I want some consistency here, so I think I'll probably do one of these here. So I'm going to have to move some of this over. This is really my favorite one, this chocolate ball. I have this planted in the garden as well, and it just forms this really nice carpet. If I could just push this up a little bit more. You could also put maybe a stone under here if you want to like lift it up if you don't want the soil so high. I definitely would like to use some of these. This is a different kind of sedum. This one is an unpronounceable name, Weihenstephaner Gold. And I like the look of this sedum because it has this kind of serrated edges of the leaves, but they're kind of like cartoonish, if that makes any sense. They're kind of fun and rounded. And so I'm just going to put this one right here. There's a little junco that came running up behind me. I feed the birds around here, so. You can tell this is actually a little bit of a woodier substrate for the Delosperma. Tuck that in. It's like a chiropractor. You're just like working around and making sure it feels right. These are nice and big and really fill up the space. Maybe a little bit too much green there. Let's kind of go with some of this larger sempervivums that are coming off here. That's actually nice. This one is Sempervivum Jade Rose. So I just want to give you all those cultivars in case these are things that are interesting to you. And you could actually search for hardy succulents. And then, you know, these are, like I said, these are some of the ones that are hardy to my zone, which is always amazing to me. I mean, we do have some native sedum, believe it or not, sedum tornatum, and I'm actually growing that in our garden and outdoors. And that is our woodland stone crop. It's so cool. It's like kind of bright green. It maybe not as showy as some of these other ones, but still, I think it's pretty cool. And you never know what specialist pollinator it relies on some of those native plants. So I try to place some emphasis on that, and at least in the outdoor gardens. When you're growing indoors, it probably doesn't matter that much. Now, this was an interesting one. This is a Rossularia, and I think these look like little, like, kind of like little roses. I think they're very beautiful. They have a completely different form than some of the other plants that I have. And so I'm just going to tuck those right in here. I like how the sempervivums are kind of clustering over here and then maybe not so much over here. Like I actually am jiving with that a bit more. I have this, like, I mean, I could probably use, instead of grabbing it with my hands. It's like when I was a kid, I didn't really want to use the utensils, and I was like grabbing fistfuls of spaghetti, shoving it in my mouth. Barbaric. Oh, I love how this kind of just puts the pups out and there's some space in between. So that's looking really good. This one's Sempervivum Ohu Om Ohu. which is a fun little name. Maybe I could take this larger one. See, I just was able to break that off and then just put that right in here. So that's another thing when you're actually, you know, at the plant shop, at the pet shop or anything like this, and you want to get one of these for the terrarium, look for ones that have little holes and crooks and crannies that you could actually grow some of these plants in. So that could bring a little bit more interest. And then I have to decide out of all of these which one I'm going to go with. So we have this, it's almost too much green. Then we have this, ooh, I like that. We have every possible imaginable section here. No, it's too much, I like this one. And then we'll see if we could actually fit some of the arachnoideums. And anything that I don't plant in here, because they're cold hardy, I could actually get these in the garden, which is fun. So I always like to get a little bit more than I need so they have more to play with, more to choose from. And, you know, these will change over time. They'll get too big. They'll get, you know, maybe not exactly as cute as like what they had been when you first started. So you may want to actually, you know, cut some of these back or take some of the pups off or, you know, do a refresh at some point. So they're not meant to stay in stasis. You know, they're going to grow, they're going to change, they're going to shift, and you might want to do a little refresh, and you might want to take some out and give them away or put them up in your garden or do a cutback, compost them, like all sorts of things. Sempervivum Mona Lisa, that's pretty. So let's just get that one in there. I also like the color of this stone. So it's kind of like this clay shale, and it's got this terracotta color with this kind of grayish brown, grayish kind of color, which is really pretty. It's kind of like this warm gray. So I'm just going to get this. I have this really thin, you know, trowel, so I could get into some of these crevice areas. Makes it a little bit easier to apply. I'll turn this around so you can see a little more of what this looks like. It's going to be pretty heavy. It's a lot of soil. Okay, we're gonna water this in. I mean, this is looking pretty dope. I really love this. You could also take like if you have like a hose on the ready and just like hose this in. Actually, I wanted to get one of my larger watering cans, but I realized it actually had started to rust out, and I need to fix it with some kind of like high-powered glue. I'm not gonna be too worried if like the water sits on the leaves for a little bit, because now I have tons of airflow. If you're creating something like this and you're using it in your house and there's not like a lot of airflow and you don't have your windows opened or anything like that, then I would be a bit more mindful of like how you're actually watering this. The airflow and the sun out here, the power of the sun out here is really just going to dry this up really quickly. And of course, like these go through rainstorms and everything along those lines. We actually have more rain on the docket for this week in the weather. You know, you could do this like in a concrete planter or anything along those lines. I mean, I just chose to do this route because it's more of the style that we're going to go for in this area. But like I said, you could easily do one of these for the inside of your house. I'm just gonna bring in a bit more of this. But there you go, there you have it. I'll see if I could tip it up a little bit. It looks super cool. It's like a little diorama, little Buddha bowl, like I said, a Buddha bowl filled with succulents. And cold hardy succulents at that. All right, that's it. I didn't even make that much of a mess. And I have plants left over.
Stay tuned on Plant One On Me for more botanical tours, talks, and how-tos. And if you're looking to further your knowledge on the plant kingdom, then have a look at our various online courses from Troubleshoot Your Houseplants to the Houseplant Masterclass. Additionally, we have a second channel we started last year called Flock Finger Lakes, where we cover more on outdoor gardening, habitat restoration, agroforestry, and even more. So check that out if that interests you. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next episode.